Welcome to Unlimited Parenting. This is a show where we talk about what it's like having children with disabilities and or special healthcare needs. I was about to say being parents with special healthcare needs, and that could be true too. That's going to be another episode.
That's all to be true.
What it's like parenting differently abled children.
You have your own special healthcare needs.
Exactly.
Okay. Another episode coming soon.
Okay. This is part 3 of our series on the 10 steps to special education. So we've already done steps 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. So at this point in your journey, your child has been assessed for an IEP and they have been found eligible. And now you're at the stage where you're going to set the meeting and then attend the meeting. So if all of this is new to you, I do suggest starting back at the beginning if you are going in for a refresher for this upcoming school year and your child had an IEP in the year previous. You probably don't need to go back.
Yeah, this might be a good starting point if you...
Unless, of course, you enjoy the sound of our voices, and then I encourage you, go back. There's lots of giggling. Okay, so just so that we can set the stage. Step 5 is before the meeting, and step 6 is the IEP meeting held and the plan written. So all of this applies to no matter what state, no matter what city you are in Idaho.
If you're in the great state of Ada, it applies. That's where you are.
That's my favorite thing to say. That's my favorite thing to say from everywhere.
From everywhere.
So let's, again, set the stage. So the meeting is scheduled. So when you're scheduling an IEP meeting that is coming from the team,
you're not scheduling.
Yeah, you're not scheduling it.
Yeah.
But all participants for the meeting are going to be contacted and it's going to be scheduled at a mutually beneficial time. So this, though, is a good part to pause and say that there may be less people than was at your eligibility meeting.
1,000%. Yeah.
Because you might not have needed those speech services or you might not have an SLP at your upcoming meeting.
Yeah.
But the minimum is the 4 core members, which is the parent or guardian, the district representative, the special education teacher, and the general education teacher.
And the student, if appropriate.
Yes. Thank you for saying that, because I could easily go down so many rabbit holes with this. Talk about a deep dive. There are 3 different IEPs.
Oh, yeah.
So we're going to assume that your child, that in our scenario, we're going to look at a standard IEP, because talk about getting into the weeds.
Yeah.
There's the early childhood, there's the standard, and then there's the transition to adulthood.
So we're gonna
and they each have different standards and requirements.
Yeah.
So,
and those are one-offs.
Exactly. So if your child is between kindergarten and 13, 14, then you're here with us.
Yep.
Okay. So we're contacting all of the people. Yes. Schedule the meeting at a convenient time and location. Notify parents of the purpose, time, location of meeting. You should also be notified as the parent on who will be attending the meeting, and that you can, in fact, invite other people to attend with you. Anyone who can speak to how your child's disability affects them. Or alternatively, if you just have a friend who's maybe a meticulous note taker and you just want to capture everything, you could do that as well.
I would also say this is a really good time to, if there are those people that maybe cannot attend, but they still want to provide input, like maybe you have an outside BI or an outside speech or a physical therapist. This is a really good opportunity for them to put some of those thoughts on paper and get those to the team. This is also where I always ask if there's a draft copy of the IEP available, if I am able to look at that so that I kind of have eyes on it prior to going into the meeting. But that's a best practice. That's not, nowhere in the law says that they have to.
And that might be more likely to happen if you didn't roll from your eligibility meeting into your IEP. So if you're someone like me who didn't have that happen, then that's more likely to happen, because that's what did happen, as I did see a draft IEP prior to the meeting. But I don't think you did, because you just rolled from one meeting into the next. Yeah. So every situation is so different. Okay. So step 6, we're at the meeting. So at the IEP meeting, the team is going to essentially work together to, you can conceptualize it like building a roadmap for your child's success for
absolutely.
this school year.
Yeah.
So this is your opportunity to bring your voice, your expertise, your data, your knowledge about your child and what you want for them in the future too.
Yes. I think sometimes parents are a little nervous that they are going to be having to write the goals and that they're going to need to be preloaded with all this information. And that's not the case at all. It is a team. These are educators who this is their job. And so they're going to work amongst the team to really figure out, those best supports and goals.
I think if anything, in my experience, it's been they write everything and then you provide that last minute input. But I also don't want people to get the impression that you're only there to provide the last minute input, because your input is equally as important. However, for the most part, I know for myself, I'm not an educational professional. I'm not a teacher. I'm not a paraprofessional. I'm not any of that. So I really do lean on them to be able to write those. I know that you have supported and that I have supported teachers who are also parents of children with disabilities. And again, that's a more unique situation to be in, because you understand what it's like to be in a classroom.
Okay. Got into the weeds.
Right. So when you're looking at your IEP, which I don't have in front of me, but I highly encourage you to view our articulate on the deep dive in the IEP, because that's also going to go through early childhood and transition to adulthood.
Right.
And it'll show you page by page of the IEP. So if you're looking at the first page, the first thing that you're going to see is demographic information. And I strongly encourage you to double check that for so many different reasons.
Yes.
So people love to pronounce the name of the street that I live on wrong. And half the time I don't correct them, because I'm like, what does it matter if the lady at Albertsons who hands me my son's meds doesn't know how to pronounce the street name? But I have found that does become a problem if, let's say, for example, your child is melting down and they're trying to look at your demographic information to give you a call, because that's part of your crisis plan or whatever the case may be. And not only is your street name spelt funny, but your phone number got transcribed in wrong too. And then now they cannot contact you.
Yeah.
So I strongly suggest everyone checks their demographic information. Even if this is your first time, it could have been transcribed wrong. And then
if it's your 100th time, because this last year, our zip code just had randomly been changed. We haven't moved since 2011. So always check it.
They finally took you from zones and gave you a zip code.
It's weird. I don't know what it was. And I don't know how I even caught it, because that's not something I even keep look at, because we have lived there for 11 years and it hasn't changed, but it did. I don't know. So yes, update your demographic. Just lay eyes on it.
Yeah.
It's important.
For all of the reasons. And then another thing that first page of IEP is going to do is check to see who's in attendance. So are all of the people, it's not that you need a quorum to have an IEP meeting, but you kind of do. Are all of the people that are there, that need to be there, are they there? Now, in some instances, some school districts will continue to have a meeting if not all of the people are there. But best practice, again, is that you know about that in advance and that you have signed agreeing to excuse that individual. I have been in an IEP meeting where the speech language pathologist needed to get up and go to support another student. So we reworked the agenda.
Yeah,
exactly.
Too. My brain just...
Both of us just stopped working. Yes. So they changed the order in which the agenda was supposed to roll. So the speech language pathologist was able to go first so that they could then be excused.
Perfect.
So just remember that too. And then everyone is going to sign their name that they were in attendance. Now, we're assuming that this is the very first IEP ever in the state of Idaho. If it is your very first IEP ever, you are signing that you're in attendance and that you agree.
Yep.
However, if this is not your first IEP and this is just this year's evaluation, you're signing that you're in attendance only, not that you agree. I am assuming that we may have some individuals listening to this who may be coming from other states. I'm not saying that you're from California, but I am saying that I do know in California, every time you sign an IEP, you're signing that you agree, and that is not true in the state of Idaho.
No. And we get a lot of those calls.
Yeah.
We get a lot of those questions because in other states do things different. And the way Idaho does it, you are only signing for attendance. This is a question we see a lot in the Facebook groups. Don't sign it. And then but that's unfortunately, that's not accurate information. Parents absolutely have time after the IEP meeting to
10 days, baby.
Exactly. To get in and lodge, I don't want to say lodge their complaints, but really, try to work with the team and figure out what they didn't like, what they weren't agreeing to. And then, but you are only, if it's a second, third, fourth, you're just signing that you were there in attendance.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But you have a lot of other options that you can do if for some reason
you're in a disagreement.
If you've signed and then you've gone home afterwards and you thought, crud, I don't really care for that much, then you still have things that you can do to go back. Another thing that happens on the first page that I think we get a lot of questions about is Medicaid billing. So when you sign or check the box and say yes, that they can bill Medicaid on your behalf, all that they're doing is getting some more money from the school.
Yep.
If you have a child with a developmental disability or a special health care need, and you are accessing supports in the community through the family-directed service pathway or the traditional pathway, and you have received a budget from the Department of Health and Welfare, a lot of times parents become concerned that once they check that box, that means that money is coming from their community supports budget. And I can assure you with every fiber of my being that it is not coming from your community supports budget. It is, in fact, just money from Medicaid to help support the school.
Absolutely. School-based Medicaid is completely different from our home and community-based supports. They're different buckets. They come from, one is not going to affect the other. And you're right. A lot of times parents don't want to sign just because of that misinformation. Schools are not getting rich by billing Medicaid for our students. In fact, Medicaid reimbursement rates are below that of usually the community.
I was just about to say schools aren't even breaking even when they bill Medicaid.
They're not. So this is just one more
funding stream for them to pull
stream. Exactly. And kids like my child are expensive. He requires personal care support, speech supports, behavioral intervention. So those are Medicaid reimbursable services that the school can bill for, and it helps offset some of his costs.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things where it's like, any way I can help you, I can.
Absolutely. And at any given time, if you sign that and then want to pull that back, you can, and kind of
no questions asked.
No questions asked. Absolutely.
So the next thing you're going to see on there is your plot, essentially the present levels of academic and functional performance. So
Sorry, I like to call it a benchmark. People just know what that means because we call it fancy things.
Only because we like to, though.
Yeah.
So it's a benchmark. It explains how learning differences affect your child's ability to access general education curriculum. It explains how your child handles academic subjects and everyday functional activities, from socializing to tying shoelaces.
And this is really important that you give your parent input.
Yeah.
On these benchmarks, because you also are your child's professional.
If it's helpful, I would also like to say when you're providing these vignettes about your child, to also contextualize it in your brain for academic settings.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times I go, well, that's never going to work. And then I'm only thinking about it in the context of home. And then I'm like, oh my gosh, it might actually work at school because there's more kids acting as role models. So remember, before you give advice, to put it in the context of an academic setting and not a community support setting.
Yeah.
I've done that before.
How many times have we heard, I've looked at my child's teacher and gone, you've got to be kidding me. He can do that? He does that at school?
Exactly.
Yeah. So, yeah, think educationally context.
So then we're going to move on. We've looked at from what you write in the PLAP and the PLOP and the benchmark section. From there, that's what they use to determine annual goals.
Okay.
So when they're talking about annual goals, they're going to say who, what's going to be achieved, what skill, what behavior, how, in what manner, at what level, where, in what setting, and under which conditions, and when, by what date and time. So we're setting these SMART goals: measurable, attainable, time-bound.
Right.
What's the S and the R? Do you remember? Specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time-bound.
We are realistic and timely.
Yes, we did it.
Yep. And that's the big thing. Like, how, this is where you as a parent, you're going to know when they're collecting data and when you can access that data. So is it going to be weekly, monthly? How are they collecting it? Is it observation? Is it, it's good information in here.
Also, I'm going to take this part to say that you should be receiving those observational data, that measurement, at least concurrent with report cards, if not more, depending on how reporting is done in your IEP, but it's at least concurrent with report cards. So let's talk more about goals, in specific strength-based goals. So these are goals that build on what your child does well, while also acknowledging challenges, but focusing on using their strengths to grow. Because how we talk about our children is sometimes who they become. Right. And we've seen especially, and maybe this is just me, but in transition IEPs, the language becomes even more important because the child is in the room. So I'm just going to give you some examples of some strength-based IEP goals that I made, and then Melissa will tell me if they pass or if they don't pass. Okay. There are no tricks.
Okay. I feel like she's lying.
So we're going to pretend that we know a child with autism. So given a visual schedule, Marcus will independently transition between classroom activities with no more than one prompt 4 out of 5 days of the week.
Okay.
That one seems good.
Okay.
I like that one.
Yeah.
Hopefully these are all good. None of these are a trick, I promise. So then I picked a student with ADHD who enjoys hands-on activities. Using a fidget tool and movement breaks, Janelle will complete multi-step assignments with 80% accuracy in 4 out of 5 discrete trials.
Yeah. Well, I know when you're going to gather, how you're gathering, when you're gathering. Yeah.
Yeah. And then this sets the teacher up to know I'm going to need a fidget tool and I'm going to need movement breaks. Because it's not, Janelle really struggles with completing multi-step assignments. So going forward, teacher will use a fidget tool and movement breaks.
See, that was unnecessary.
Yeah, just wording it that way, it doesn't make any sense.
And oftentimes we see IEPs written that way, whether it is intentional or not, but it's not strength-based, and it sets that student up, unfortunately, just to be deficit-based. So we don't want that.
No. Can I do one more, though?
Ah, please.
Can I just do one more? Because this one I was proud of.
Okay.
Given text-to-speech tools, Eli will summarize a grade level passage orally with key details in 3 out of 4 opportunities.
Wow.
I know. Thank you. That's
Look at that. But that is a great use of assistive technology, because a lot of times teams freak out.
Yeah.
When parents say, hey, let's incorporate some assistive technology. Teams freak.
Especially when you're using an AAC device that they're not trained on.
And justifiable. Those are great. Those are measurable. They're timely.
That is exactly like having a student who comes in and nobody knows how to speak that language.
That's exactly what it is.
Because it's just a rare language from a country that's far away from us, and we don't know how to speak it. But guess what? We gonna learn.
Guess what?
We gonna learn today.
Well, now I feel really bad because I just dropped my kid off at school this morning with a team that he's barely.
And you know what? They're gonna learn. They're gonna learn today.
And I haven't got a phone call, so.
Okay, so now we've got some benchmarks, we've written some goals, so now we need to determine who is going to help them with these goals, because we've decided that this child does need specialized instruction. So we talk about special education and related supports. We're looking at how often will the child receive these services, so number of times per day or week. How long each session will last. So that's the number of minutes for OT, occupational therapy, physical therapy, speech language pathology, behavioral intervention, positive behavioral interventions and supports, whatever your child is needing help with. And then where the services will be provided. So that can be in a push-in setting in the classroom or a pull-out setting. in a small group setting, in the special education classroom, in the resource room, and when services will begin and when they will end.
Okay.
So for my child, this looked like positive behavioral interventions and supports that he was pulled out of the classroom for, and he went to the special education classroom. He did that 3 times a week at, I don't know, 20 minutes each time or something like that. But if you were getting behavioral intervention, one-to-one support too, that would also be found in that service minutes grid.
Yep.
So we have, especially last year, it really felt like this was a big hot topic last year. How do I figure out in my child's IEP where his one-to-one is? And you're going to find it in that service grid. You can even go so far as to say, okay, well, if school starts at 8 and it ends at 3, this is how many minutes elapse between 8 and 3. And then you can go to your service grid and you can say, 1,600 hours.
Oh, that's
for
full-time support.
One-to-one. Then you know you're hitting full-time support. So those are ways that you can do it without even needing to ask someone, I guess. And then you're going to look at placement. So this is really where we start talking about LRE, or least restrictive environment, and how much time is a child spending with his typically developing peers. Because the goal is always to spend as much time with your typically developing peers as appropriate.
And so that's gonna that'll look like gen ed time on an IEP. So
yes,
you'll see, how much is the student in a general education setting versus a special education setting, and there will be percentages. And as we move through and become more and more restrictive, we have different placement options that may exist.
Right, because you could have a child who is pulled out for math, but then spends all the rest of their time with their typically developing peers. Or alternatively, on the other end of the spectrum, you may have a child who only sees their typically developing peers at lunch. Or at a gymnasium. Adaptive PE or something like that. So I wanted to just read out some options that we have seen in the state of Idaho of different least restrictive environments, because least restrictive environment is always supposed to be a philosophy and less of a place, but the philosophy also has to take place somewhere. So it could be one of these classrooms, a combination of these classrooms, and the way it can fluctuate over the school year is also important. So just because you get an Excel, an Ascent, an SLC classroom, Structured Learning Center, doesn't mean that you're going to be in there
absolutely not
forever. Okay, again, sorry.
It'd be
Here's
fluid.
some options.
Yeah.
The general education classroom with supports, a self-contained special education classroom, a private school with a program or teaching style that meets a specific need, a state school like the School for the Deaf and the Blind over in Gooding, a homebound instruction, online school, residential care, treatment facility, and again, any combination of those above.
Yeah.
So another thing that you're going to see on there is accommodations and modifications. So accommodations, again, are changes to how a student learns. So that's going back up to that IEP goal of that student who needed a fidget spinner or who needed extra time or movement breaks. Those are all accommodations versus a modification, which is what's really separating out an IEP from a 504. Which is that you need that specially designed instruction. So that's when that one student went to math class. They left the typical education classroom and went to a different room to do math. And that was their modification. So you're going to get like a service delivery statement.
Right.
Can you give some more examples of modifications? Because I can't come up with them off the top of my head because I didn't really.
Well, I mean, any modification to curriculum. So, for example, my son is a 9th grader. He is not doing 9th grade algebra, but instead a math equivalent for his developmental age is sorting activities. So we are very much altering his curriculum. We're modifying his curriculum. He still has math curriculum.
Exactly.
It's just not what his typical peers in ninth grade are doing.
It's what's appropriate for him.
Absolutely.
But no matter what, when you send your son to school, you know he's doing reading.
I know he's doing
You know he's doing math.
Exactly.
It's just whatever is appropriate for him.
How are we modifying it for that student? Yeah.
And we're also going to head into a section called participation in state, local, district assessments.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that almost everyone participates in assessments. And again, just like all of their education, it's to what extent is appropriate for them.
100%.
So in some cases, that looks like a child who completes the whole assessment or gets through the first 20 questions or just clicks through one, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Whatever that student needs. Yeah. And I kind of look at it, and my student is one of those that probably clicks through 2 or 3. But I kind of look at all of his peers get that opportunity, and he needs that opportunity as well. So whether or not he accesses the entirety of it, no big deal. He has the opportunity to access it in whatever capacity works for him.
And that's another really good segue into it may be different in the great state of Ada versus other parts of the state of Idaho. So a parent may call and say, my child is only going to school 4 days a week.
Mm-hmm.
And the first question is always going to be, do the general education students go to school 4 days a week? Because if the answer to that is yes, your child is a general education student before they are a special education student. So if all students only go to school 4 days a week, then your student will only go to school 4 days a week.
Right. Exactly. It's that.
If all students start
right?
at 9 p.m. or 9 a.m., sorry, then you're going to start at 9 a.m.
Yes.
It becomes a problem
When we are shortening school days for special education.
when your child needs to get on the bus 30 minutes before the school day starts. That's when we start asking some questions. So we've made it through the IEP. What are we going to do if something doesn't feel right with goals, services, placement? Well, first off, you can always put it in writing.
Yeah.
Always put it in writing and say, I would like to make a formal dispute. And I know that those sound like scary words, but they're really not.
They're not.
I would like the team to meet again so that we can talk about some of the things that I noticed that we only have 30 minutes of behavioral intervention in our service grid. And I just think that given Janelle's eligibility report, she could really benefit from more time. Can we meet and then we can go over why it was 30 minutes? Do we think that maybe it'll restrict her independence if she has more time? Are we just kind of trying to, it's really just bringing the conversation up again.
And that's, I guess, the thing that I want people to leave with. You always have the right to call an IEP meeting, whether it's off cycle or not. You always have that right. Put it in writing.
Always.
But you always are within your rights to call a team meeting and get everybody on board.
So you're sitting here right now listening to this and school has not started yet or school has just started. Mm-hmm. I tried to time these to where they would all be out before school started, and that, really just did not work in my favor.
But holy cow, school is starting so early.
I know.
I was not ready for school to start.
So what do you do today? I would say that number one, you can always, especially if this is not your first IEP, request a draft ahead of the meeting, review it, be prepared, use that small window of time that you have with the staff, use it wisely by knowing what's coming.
Yeah, absolutely.
Review the evaluation. Review the eligibility. Write down your questions. Say, hey, we're just coming off the summer. There could be new skills that have been gained. You might get the old IEP and say, oh my gosh, we already know how to do this. I think that we need to call a meeting earlier than normal so we can all come back together, meet, and I can say, hey, so-and-so developed this skill over the summer. I think we might need to readjust and it might need some new assessments.
And that's okay. And the team actually wants that input from you.
They want all input.
They do. They really do.
Come with a list of strengths. Again, if your child gained a new skill, request specific supports and services come with your data. come with your data. So for instance, I could say, oh, my son over the summer, he went from 4 hours of therapy a week to 29 hours of therapy a week over the summer. And oh my gosh, the leaps and bounds of great things that he did over this summer have been astronomical.
And you have the data to support.
But my question also becomes, how do we translate those skills into the school setting?
That's a whole... on another podcast.
Exactly. Bring a family member, bring a friend. This is the time to make sure that, hey, I'm going to request this IEP meeting. I'm going to ask for it, as soon as possible. But if they give me some dates, I'll shoot them to you so you can come with me. Speak up if you need more time. If you need a break.
Okay. Yep.
In the IEP meeting, I need to go get a drink of water. I need to go to the hall and collect myself.
100%. I need to pop a piece of chocolate in. Yeah, something.
And also, just remember that, someone could be working through their lunch. You could have just been gotten off the phone with Medicaid. It could be 100 handful of different things. Just by 2 cents.
Yep.
So today we've covered steps 5 and 6. So scheduling the meeting and holding the meeting. And these are arguably kind of the crux of the whole special education process is really this IEP meeting. Yeah. And when it's written with your input and built around strengths, it becomes more than a legal document. It's really a plan for the child, and it's used faithfully. So next time we're going to dive into steps 7 and 8, which means there's only 2 parts left of this. And this from here on kind of becomes how to adjust the IEP, how to adapt it, what happens at the 3-year mark, because no matter what, you're getting more assessments then too. So until then, please remember that you know your child best. Please reach out to us if you have any questions. Go forth and be a great member of the IEP team. That was like Daniel Tiger. Great Daniel Tiger. The Frosted Flake Tiger. You're great. Daniel Tiger would have been like, you're great. I'm great. We're great.
So, I believe you on that one. Bye.
Thank you so much, everyone out there, for listening in. If you are in Idaho or planning on moving to Idaho and have any questions on systems or services for children with disabilities, please consider reaching out to us on our website at IPUL Idaho. That's IPUL Idaho.org, or by calling us at 208-342-5884. Be sure to tune in next time. Until then, this has been Unlimited Parenting.
Thanks for listening.